This is the MFS Wellness Podcast. I am Mike Sinopoli, and we are starting another podcast trilogy within the podcast. And it's going to be called Life After Divorce. I'd done the Divorced Dads of Daughters. It was a three-part series. If you want to go back and listen to that, those are all posted up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everything of the sort. But this time, I'd like to get a woman's perspective on this phase of life and mainly on parenting post divorce or co parenting, they'd call it, So we're going to do that. Joining me today, then, because I did need a female presence here, is my longtime friend from out on the West Coast, Yolie. How's it going and how's life in Cali?
Hi, Mike. It is nice. It's hot,
Yeah.
but I love it.
All right. So what are you?
It's
You're
great.
you're on the Southern California, right?
Yeah.
All right. So it doesn't get more than like what does it get, like 70 degrees, the lowest out there in the winter?
No, it stays hot out here.
It stays that hot there.
It
See,
stays pretty hot.
I always,
Yeah.
I always
Well, not hot.
underestimate
I
it.
mean, it gets warm and we get lots of rain. So,
Okay. Well, that's I'm not jealous. I know I won't be jealous of you, but I am because once we get that frigid temperatures over here, so you don't get snow. You don't ever feel the painful frigid weather on your face.
mm,
You don't ever get that.
no,
Oh,
no.
man, I'm going to be
Yeah.
nice to you. I'm going to be nice to you, but it really sucks. And it's coming. It's coming this way. We still got out here in Chicago. We still got the heat. So we got like 80, 90 degrees still, which I will take that. I will take that sunshine and that vitamin D on my body as much as I can. So, what we're here to do is just discuss this whole divorced aspect. As you probably see, I don't know, I see it all the time at my age. I'm 42, and I feel as if there's been a lot of marriages and relationships that just seem to fail rather quickly. You see that on your end of things, like people your age and all that. We're
I
about the same
do.
age.
Actually, since my divorce, I've had a lot of messages from a lot of friends, a lot of females that are currently going through a divorce as well. And it just seems like there's more and more. Um, and it sucks. I'm not gonna lie. It's not something that, you get married and something that you want to do or plan on, you know, for the future, but it happens.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, but sometimes two people grow apart and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, sometimes there's just more than just the logical explanation. Hey, this looks good on paper. Financially, this is great. As a family unit, this is wonderful. Why aren't we keeping this going? There's more to it. Like I've talked about before, there's, your logical brain and then your feeling brain. If your logical brain is telling you all this to do that your feeling brain isn't, that means there's something up and you have to get that figured out, whether that's through talking to your partner, whether that's through therapy or what, or sometimes it's just not something that can be recovered and you have to face it. And that's what we had been through. And now we're out on the other side of it. And I know you and I both have a passion to kind of see what we can do to help people. And we are not therapists, obviously. We are just two people with experience that knows how hard it can be. And even if it's a peaceful, an amicable type of divorce, it still has its feelings and its traumas to it and its ups and downs. So, getting divorced is one thing, but getting divorced with kids, I think, is a completely other thing. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, it's very hard.
mhm.
Uh, and both are hard. I'm not dismissing anyone who's, you know, going through a divorce and doesn't have any children. It's hard on for anyone. But when you have kids, there's so much that goes into it.
Oh,
Thinking on how, who gets them on what day and having to plan out holidays. Holidays are around the corner. So having to have a schedule and figuring out time frames on like, well, I want them this day. And well, little things like that just makes it 10 times harder.
it really
You
does.
know,
And for a lot of people too, it is the kids' well-being and mentality is one thing. Another thing too is that if, every divorce has a different path and none of them are identical. And in a lot of cases that the health, one person might want it, one person may not, or could be both, whatever. But in certain cases, or they have to detach. You have to detach from that person, and there's a process to doing that. And it makes it one of the biggest things at detachment is to completely cut off communication and to get over this person, basically. And some people have a problem doing that. And the more you have to communicate with that person, you sort of reset your detachment phase. So it makes it that much more difficult to do. And that's why I think a lot of people do need to go to therapy through this
yeah.
process. and focus on that. Instead of repairing, you need to kind of like figure out how can I detach while I still have to be a parent with this person to the kids. And again, I'm not speaking from my own experience, and because I have a great co-parenting relationship right now. So, and you might not know how that is as well.
Yeah.
Yours is
Same.
okay.
Mine's going pretty great. We've known each other for a very long time, so I think that him and I are able to communicate. And even though we didn't communicate much during our marriage, I feel that now we are divorced, our communication is 10 times better. So, for whatever reason that is, but it has helped this process. Of course, when it happened, it was very hard on both of us. Someone for that long, and it's who you are used to, daily routines, little things like that. And then you wake up one day and you're waking up alone.
Hmm.
So it was hard. And like you mentioned earlier, for a lot of people, you have that detachment process where you have no communication. Unfortunately for us, we have kids and you have to have contact with that person. You have to see that person every other weekend or sometimes every night. So it makes it that much harder to go through that detachment process because you still have that communication with them. You still have to talk to them about schooling and little things like that. The difference is there's no more talks about, him and I, and I'm sure the same with you and your ex-wife. But now the conversations are just about the kids,
Right. And
so it
that,
makes it still makes it hard, even though there's no conversations about, a relational conversations, I guess you can call it.
yeah, sounds right. Sounds like a
Yeah.
good term. Absolutely. I mean, maybe that's where you have to almost kind of take a look. Like, I think one of the biggest stigmas with divorce is that it's always going to be traumatic for the kids. It's going to make the kids grow in a certain way. They're going to grow up. They're going to
Right.
become junkies. They're going to do drugs. They're going to fail in school. It's a wild card. You never know. And I'm pretty sure that you could say that for a marriage that someone stuck out what they shouldn't have, and then they have a tension and chaos within the house, and the kid ends up being not well from that. Whereas that
Mhm.
detachment from your partner actually lets you, I think what you're doing right now and what I'm doing is you can talk more about the kids, and you're actually parenting better because you've taken out this confrontation and this force of trying to force love and trying to force this thing.
Mhm.
And that's something that's hard to explain to different generations in a sense. Of course, nobody really wants to go through this because when you get married, when you have a family and kids, you don't this is never in the plan. Like, you never plan this, And I think one thing too, and I think we talked about this a little bit, you and I, about the mom and dad roles that you have to sort of now take on. And I know a lot of women too that have been through this. They say that the one thing they miss a lot of is their feminine energy and being able to be feminine, and they have to take on this dad role. And for me, I have to kind of like figure out some of these feminine roles.
Mhm.
I don't know how to braid hair. I don't know how to put makeup on a kid. I have,
Yeah.
in our divorced dad thing, we've touched on when it's the time of the month comes for my children. Oof, it's like it's a lot of that. So how are you doing with that? Like, do you feel those masculine roles
Mhm.
creeping in on yourself a little bit since that happened?
Not yet. I think because my kids they're 5 and 7. So I don't have to deal with that, like the changes yet. Your daughters are a little bit older, so they're already going through some of those changes. So with mine, they're still little that I still have that little, I don't want to call it baby face because they're not babies, but we still do, we go to the park, we do playtime. So it's hard because of course a lot, in my situation, and I can't speak for everyone else, but when you have the dad in the house, and there's discipline, they're going to listen to the dad a little bit more than they listen to mom. So now going through this and having to be like that strict parent, it's a little different for me because I can't be the one that's like, oh, come to me, or like it's fine, they're okay. No, now I have to make sure that I'm also disciplining my kids. So that way when they do go to their dads, they also get the same, treatment, the good and the discipline.
Right. No, you have to do that
Yeah.
and kind of coordinate it. Again, there's going to be different parenting styles, and I think that's one of the hardest things is that once you're split, you know, there could be parenting styles and things that you don't agree with, but aren't necessarily maybe detrimental to the kids. And I think that's one thing that almost has to get put away in a sense, and you just have to kind of like let it be, because that's going to cause more animosity and friction. I think that's the main thing to avoid in this whole thing with your ex, right? I mean, that,
Yeah.
you don't want
I
that.
also think I also think that the part that is easy, speaking on that, is that you, and I don't know about you, but when your girls were little, but when you are disciplining your kids and you have your partner there, sometimes you both don't agree on that, on whatever's going on. So then it brings more chaos between both the mom and the dad
Hmm.
because you're not agreeing on, well, no, it's fine. And the mom or the dad is saying, no, they need to be, told not to do this or whatever. So I think now that factor is taken out. So they know that at my house, there are certain rules that they have to follow. And then when they go to their dad's house, they have certain rules that they have to follow. So there's no more of that animosity between him and I, where we have to say, I don't like how you were parenting, our kids, or I don't like the way you told them to do this, because now you don't get to see that part anymore. So there's no arguing between you and your spouse over, how you discipline your kids, pretty much.
Right, and I think that's the main thing to keep away from the children is the animosity, the arguing, the that is. I think there's a little contradictive parenting from place to place is not as bad as right in front of their face between the two of us. So, that sort of thing. I felt like when I was married, kept that kind of stuff at bay for the kids because I always had that in my brain, and I've said it on the podcast here many times. I felt like my divorce and still do is it was a divorce from my kids just because of how mine was. It was one of those things where the love was gone. It was deceased. It was gone. Nobody's blame, no fault. Not That's not a fault. That's what it was. And the holding on aspect was holding on to the kids. And again, that's something that can blow up in your face and keep them in a bad spot. So I had to come to terms with that, and then life gets harder. Life just gets harder. It's harder to do it financially, logistically, and parentally. It's just more difficult, and you have to take
Mhm.
that on, and that actually might be in the greater good for the kids in some senses. There's always going to be a drawback. There's always going to be something I think that you can point to that isn't as good or isn't as bad, but
Right.
that's life, right? So you just got to go with the best case scenario.
Right. But then there's also this other part, and some people may not agree with this, but for a lot of people, they stay because of that. The financial stability is easy. You have both parents in the household, and everything's easier. But if you're not happy, and I'm not saying this to anyone, go get a divorce or anything like that,
Mm.
but for me, it was you stop being happy and you start putting yourself last, and your kids they see that, because you don't become the best version of yourself for your children. And I had to take myself out and just say, you know what, this just has to happen. And unfortunately, uh, it wasn't the first time that we had talked about divorce. We've talked about it a couple times throughout the years. And sometimes you just keep pushing through it and making it work for the kids. It's not even, oh, I'm going to make it work because we have love towards each other. You become this person who makes it work just for the children. And then you end up resenting that a lot. And then you start resenting that person even more. And unfortunately, when you stay, you're just, I don't know, I guess in my case, I just felt more like a zombie.
Hmm.
And now that I'm out, it's hard. There's struggle, the financial struggle, of course. Now you have to really pick and choose what you want to do, what you can do. Is this, should I do this? Do I want to spend money on this? Where before you didn't have that thought. So now, like getting out of that and going through this hardship, even though it's hard, I feel happy.
Hmm. Absolutely.
I don't feel this misery, or I don't feel, not that I was miserable with him, but I don't feel like I am um not myself anymore.
Right.
I feel like I can actually be myself now and breathe.
Right. And you're
So
saying you feel, right? You have to hear the words you're saying. You're
yeah,
saying you feel, not you think.
you feel
So you feel
right.
that way. Because if you can think that it's the best option to stay, And like we had said, like the logical brain might say, this logically sounds like I should do this, but the feel and we lead with, like I had said from Mark Manson's book, um, whatever, everything is fucked. He either says we lead with our emotional bodies and our brains, so that always is going to be how we lead out in ourselves, and then our logical brain has to kind of guide that and do the right thing and to come to those terms. I do have a bit of a fear, and I think it's a very rational one. And I had seen that, in the 1970s, the divorce rate seemed to skyrocket, and then up and through the 80s, and then through the 90s and all that. And I believe that is actually a good thing. I didn't think that was a bad thing. I think that the women hit the workforce, and I believe that perhaps they were stuck in some pretty bad relationships, and now they have the freedom to be independent and go outside of that abusive structure and make a life for themselves. So, in a sense, I think that's good. But now I believe it's trending back down. But I don't believe relationships are becoming any better. I think that people are going to be staying due to the fact that the cost of living is so high and astronomical, that I think people are going to be sitting in this terrible spot strictly because they don't feel like they can go anywhere. Because every household needs two incomes, it seems, very, very many of them, I'd say. So I think
Yeah,
that's something we're seeing. That sucks for the kids that are involved in those things, I believe. So,
right. No, I agree. And it's unfortunate, because going through my divorce and talking to a few people, the amount of people, men and women, that have said that they sort of would like to separate from their spouse, it's a lot, you know. People that have been together for a very long time and realize, okay, like this isn't working, but we're making it work for the kids. Um, it makes me sad, but I also understand why they stay,
hmm
and you stay for financial stability and um, making sure that the kids are going to be okay. Because you're right, you leave this home that you create with someone and you go into the unknown. You
yeah.
have no idea, like you have lived with someone for so long, and going back out, you're like, wait, how do I do this again?
hmm
It's almost like you're basically starting over.
hmm
I'm starting over with everything, learning how to look for a place and put your name on everything. And then that hits, because I know that that hit me really hard post divorce was, okay, I have like my own bills now with just my name. It's not you and someone else. I am doing something by myself, not with you and someone else, or even invitations. It's just you. There's no more, let me ask my husband or let me see what, if we're available.
hmm
So there's a lot of things that go into this that you don't think about it. You're like, okay, I'm going to get divorced and it's going to be easy. And it is not easy. It is
hmm
very hard. So that's one thing I do tell people, like really, really think about it if you're, unsure. But if you really are unhappy, you also have to take that into consideration as well.
hmm
But
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it does, it's true. And that's for yourself, but we have to obviously look out for ourselves afterwards because we do become on our own, and that is a big change. There's a freedom aspect to it about, being a single person again. There's freedoms to that, which is nice. But mainly what you have to still do, and we have children, so you have to kind of do things that are in the best interest of these kids. And that's what we really want to talk about here today. So,
yeah,
so I kind of I found this list of what to avoid. Okay. So before I go off of that, we know what to avoid. I think the number one thing to avoid in this is traumatizing the kids in any way. I don't believe anything abrupt is good. I don't believe that's healthy for them. I think that that's something that should be almost just carefully stated. When we did this, we told the kids that we're not going to be married any longer. We just said, "Hey, kids, we have to talk to you. We're still, mom and dad, and we're friends, and all of this." That's what we said, and we had something lined up after that. We ended up going to like Urban Air, which is a like bounce house place right after that, and then out to eat. So we shared that news with them and confront or comforted them a bit, with our good intentions. You don't want to lie to them. You actually have to follow through with this kind of shit. You can't just tell your kids this shit and then it goes another way. They're not going to trust their parents. So we did that. We
Right.
went out, we had a night out, and we came back home, and things just kind of went back to the way they were. And then the process of everything started from there. So I think that's reassuring the kids and meaning it, right? That's number one when it
Yeah.
starts, right?
Well, I want to touch base on that. I think that that's a great idea, the way you guys did it, because when you just have the talk and then, so for me, it was the opposite. I sat down on the couch with my daughter and my son and had to tell them, and he was there too, but my daughter didn't take it well, so she cried, and that was very hard. So I think the way you guys did it by going somewhere and then going out to dinner and showing them that you guys are, you guys are going to have a friendship. It's going to look a little different. I think that that would have been, or I wish I would have taken that,
Right.
that same,
Well,
same thing on my end.
that's okay. I'm
But
sure. I'm
for
sure it'll be
anyone
all
else who's
right.
listening, I think
Yeah.
that's a very good idea.
I think that's one way to do it. And I also do, I wouldn't tell kids big events like that or things that can be emotional right before bed. I would make sure that you
Yeah.
don't send them to bed with their thoughts on something like that. Their brains are not developed. They don't understand a lot of things just due to their ages, and
Mhm.
that can go anywhere from age 5 when they're coherent enough for it to age 15, even I think up into the teens. I just wouldn't send the kids to bed on that note. I would want to sandwich it in with a happier day and time. But again, that really means that you have to, not everyone can do this because of egos. And that's like my number one thing is the first thing you have to do, no matter what was done to you. It sucks. It's the hardest thing you might ever have to do is put your ego away. It has
Mhm.
to go.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the
Any
end.
anger or anything that you have against the person that you were once with, you have to put it just in the back burner. You can
Absolutely.
have those feelings and those emotions, and whether I feel a certain way about my ex-husband or not, I still respect him. I respect him in front of the kids. We have great conversations. We co-parent very well. If he does something with the kids, he'll send me pictures, so I don't feel like I'm missing out on their new adventures. And I do the same for him, like, look what something new that they're trying, or we're going to go here, just so he is also aware of where we are in case of any emergency. So I think having that friendship and being able to put, like you said, any anger or any feelings that you have or putting the ego aside is going to help with that co-parenting,
Hmm.
and it has to come from both because it can't just be one person,
You nailed it.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to
That
come from both parties.
Yeah, it has to be mutual. That's the hard part. That's the hardest part because if you have a significant other that's unwilling to cooperate in that sense, it's not going to, it just won't work because if they're going to start getting their lawyers involved and coming after all your stuff, you have no choice but to stand up for yourself and get into the fight. So if you can avoid the fight, many can't. There's obviously situations that can run pretty deep with abuse and things like that. I'm more talking if this is just sort of hey, something happened. Maybe there was just loss of love, infidelity, just growing apart, whatever it is, things like that. Which is they all still sting and they all hurt, but then the more that's happened to you in that relationship, the more you feel you've been violated or that you've been kind of I don't want to say abused, but hurt, the harder it is to put your ego away and the more painful it is to shove that ego back and take it away. Now, my way of going through that and making that happen is saying that this pain of, hey, I want to retaliate. I want to say something mean. I want to do this. I'm going to say something like that. I'm going to hurt this person. Or if that comes into my brain, that's putting that away is painful. And that's to me, that pain is me taking it in versus my kids feeling it one day. So I'm doing it. I'm taking the pain. Here's my little virtue signal for the day. I'm taking the pain for the kids and their upbringing. I'm going to put it away so that it alleviates them of any future trauma that will stay with them forever because they're not just going to feel that in the minute that it happens or in the day that it happens. They're going to probably carry that through life. And I don't
Yeah.
want my daughters to be in a therapist office in 20 years talking about
Mhm.
the divorce of my ex and I. So
Right.
that's the mentality I think you have to try to take. And even if you were fucking wronged,
Yeah.
even if you were in the right 100%, even if this your significant other did something so bad to you, they cheated, they were verbally abusive, they were toying with your emotions, whatever it was, whatever this happens, financial shit, you got to figure it out. You have to put it away. And it's hard. But
Mm.
you have to take that mentality of I'm doing it for these kids. I'm
Yeah.
taking this, you know? So
Yeah.
that's what it
Oh
is.
yeah, the kids they see everything and they hear everything. So
Hmm.
anything that you say to them, to your ex, the kids will absorb that. And you don't want to have them see their father or their mother in a negative way.
Not at
You know, you
all.
still want your kids to respect them because
And
in the end, that's their dad and that's their mom.
right.
So
And we're also the number one role models for what they're going to see. And as a dad with the two daughters, you know, I am the prime example of how a man should treat a woman. You know, I'm not perfect, obviously. You know, nobody is, but they see that's there's no disrespect in front of their faces, and even behind the scenes at this point. You know, there's no disrespect. Obviously, there's always going to be nothing's perfect. There's going to be a little argument here or there, and there's going to be a
yeah,
time where the resentment flares up. You know, that's fine, and it's going to happen as long as it's not in front of them.
yeah,
But that's the kind of stuff, you know, that you just I have to show them that you know that I'm a good man, and that's what I want them to be with
right,
one day. And you know, also let them know that hey, no, nobody is perfect. You know, yeah, no,
right.
Dad did yell the other day. Dad was mad the other day. But that's just being human. So you know, so it's just kind of be
Mhm.
open and honest with them, and you know, you share enough to so where they know you're human, but you don't have to give them the whole rundown. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
because yeah, because like one of the main things of like things to avoid that I was looking up is using your children as messengers or spies, right?
Oh,
Like that
so bad.
happens. That happens.
That's awful.
How could you, you know, like
Ugh,
I think it
that just sounds wrong
it
on so many
does. It
levels.
does, and
Yeah,
it's a fine line to walk, you know, because you are concerned about your kids at the other house, at the other place, because you don't know what's going on there. So, but you might
right.
want to know, or maybe you see a change in behavior on the kids, right?
But but that's where communication comes in. And I'm so big on that. Like if you want to know, have that relation. And this is why having a positive relationship with your ex, regardless of what happened, um, because it does help. You know, if you have a question, or sometimes I'll hear my daughter say something, and of course, I'm gonna message him like, "Hey, this, is everything okay or whatever?" Uh, but without that communication, you're gonna want to go through your kids. If I heard my daughter say that and then now I'm poking at her and trying to get information from her, that's just wrong. That's a
Hmm.
child.
Yeah.
You want to go through the source, through the main source, not through your children.
No, and their brains are processing differently. They're going to tell you stuff or maybe they're going to sense that they're being questioned and interrogated,
Mhm.
and they're going to lie, and you're not going to get the
Right.
straight story anyways because they're scared and they don't know how to do this. You're putting these kids in this, and then and like we said, that's what they're thinking. While they're thinking that, they're feeling something inside, and that's what
Yeah.
stays. It's the thoughts
Yeah.
might go away, but it's that bam, that trauma hit that they get from holy shit, my dad's asking me a bunch of crazy questions. I have to answer these.
Yeah.
I'm on the stand here, and
Yeah.
fuck, I don't know what to do. That's what their bodies are thinking in that sense, and
Yeah.
that's that's damaging. It's truly
Yeah.
damaging to do that, and that's involving them in any conflict. And you
Mhm.
also can't speak negatively of your
Oh yeah.
right. That's another
I
one.
was gonna say that too. That's like the number one thing. And that was the one thing that me and him both agreed on during the divorce is, when the kids are with me or when the kids are with him, we just don't speak negative about each other. We don't want them having that negativity about like, oh, my dad this or my mom that. You just can't have that.
Hmm.
The kids, their opinion on like who you are is always going to be positive because they love you. They just love you.
Hmm.
And once you start feeding them something about their dad or their mom, they start to view you differently. And that's wrong.
Right.
You can't do that to children.
No, not at all. It's a sense of abuse in a way. It's a form of it, and I don't think that's going to go well for anybody in the long term. Doing something like that, or you know, and then same thing with like being like not being cooperative. It just it hurts the kids.
Yeah.
It's your ego. That's again, it's everything that I could say. That's on these lists of what not to do. Is just it's
Yeah.
all points back to putting your ego away.
Mm.
Yeah, you're gonna feel like you're getting walked on. Maybe you're gonna feel like it's not justified. But again, like you have to keep reminding yourself that that pain is you absorbing it, so your kid doesn't have to feel it down the road as
Exactly.
much as you can. You take it all on.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you're a parent. You take the pain from your kids. And how many times have we said it? You know, if your kid's in physical pain, oh, you know, you love your child. I would take that physical pain from you.
Mhm.
So remember that the emotional pain is also something that will
Yeah.
destroy them internally, if you can be aware enough of it, right? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Big
so
time.
and then competition, right? Competing for the kids' affection, trying,
Yeah.
it's the opposite, right? Instead of
Yeah.
like talking shit, you're buying them shit and you're trying to
Yeah.
win them like with more better things. I said to my ex, I told her, I said, look, I want to have a relationship with my kids, and I'm going to do things with them. I'm going to take them places. I'm going to
Mhm.
do what we do. We do dad-daughter dates, and this is what it is. And I said to her, I said, I want you to know that not 1 minute of this is just everything to do with giving my kids a good life experience with their father.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with trying to one up you or trying to be the better
Mhm.
parent or any of that. So if you have an issue with it, I mean, let me know,
Yeah.
and you're free to, I'm not going to think that of you either. I said you can go ahead, and I think
Right.
you should. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Take them out for a pedicure or something, or whatever you want to do. Have mom dad daughter day.
Mhm.
Do that with them. Then I have like my things that we're going to do. So even tomorrow we're going, or this weekend, whatever, we're going to a walk together. We're going to go do a charity walk for homeless animals. So,
Mm.
so yeah,
That's
it's
nice.
something we're going to
Yeah.
do. I like to get them involved in things like that. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's awesome. And I agree with that, and of course, this will happen during divorce. You want to start buying them things because you have this parent guilt of,
yes.
oh man, I just fucked them up completely. Like I just took them, or now they have to go to two different homes. So you want to buy them things, and
Hmm.
you sometimes have to stop yourself and realize, wait, I can't do this because of that. Now, if
Hmm.
we are out somewhere and you want to buy them something, that's completely different. But don't get into the habit, because I almost got into that habit of like, okay, I have to give them everything now
Hmm.
because now, they're going through something. And that part was very hard for
Oh,
me,
yeah,
having
oh,
to
absolutely.
navigate through that.
Oh, yeah,
So,
absolutely. So it's,
yeah.
it really is. It's a simple but difficult thing to do, this whole thing. It's
Mhm.
simple, but it's hard. That's like,
Yeah.
like logically, you could probably in 5 sentences tell somebody how to properly co-parent, at least the big stuff, right? There's always going to be the little details that where there'll be a disagreement or something. Like maybe
Yeah.
I don't buy, for instance, I don't buy cereal in this house because not so much to protect my kids from that shit, but because I have a problem with it. So I'm not afraid to admit it. I've
Yeah.
my, but I know that they have cereal, I believe, at their mom's, which, hey,
Yeah.
is what it is. I'm not gonna.
Mm.
That's where you pick your battles too. That's another one. Pick your fucking battles. If you're gonna go
Yeah.
ahead and
Oh,
you will
yes.
destroy your relationship with your co-parent if you do not pick your battles. There needs to be stuff
Mhm.
that needs to be said and not need to be said. Okay, you're gonna buy cereal, fine. You buy cereal, at least they're eating cereal less 50% of the time. And
Yeah.
diet's a whole nother thing. That's probably a whole nother episode we can do. Is this
Yeah.
yeah, we'll do
I
that. That'll
agree.
probably be our second one. It's doing
Yeah.
diet around this thing. That's we can't get into that now because we will be on on this
Oh,
episode for the
forever.
next. Oh yeah, just keep going. So,
Yeah.
right.
Oh
So,
yeah.
do they
Yeah,
eat?
because you have two different people, and of
Right,
course we're in the wellness space, and I don't know
right.
about your significant other, but my ex's wasn't. So the food that they have, I'm sure, is very different. And I won't ask, I don't look, I don't care to know, because as long as my kids are safe and they are happy, then that's what matters.
Exactly.
Now, when they come here, of course, my daughter's like, why do we have this milk? And why do we have this
Hmm.
bread and not that bread? So, but yeah, we can talk about that another
Oh,
time.
absolutely. Well, that's a whole nother aspect that I didn't even expect to talk about today. Is when the
Yeah.
kids, it's one thing for us to not, try to like force differences and be better and
Yeah.
be the winning parent, but you start to deal with that. I don't know. Have you dealt with a lot of that, kind of what you just said, where
Mhm.
your kids are like, well, we do this, we're able to do this by moms or by dads, like, but why can't we do it here? Like
Yeah.
they're probably at that age. Do they do that a lot of
Yeah.
that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we get to eat this at dad's, or
Hmm.
well, dad lets me do this. And I told her, well, that's, my answer. And here's, I don't know, you tell me if this is a good answer or not. But I usually say, well, that's good. I'm happy that you can do that at your dad's. But here we're going to do things differently. I never bash the dad and say, well, that's terrible parenting. Never, no.
Well, that's because your father's an idiot,
That's
right?
right. Imagine. Gosh, that's awful.
Yeah. No.
But no, I always tell them like, well, I'm happy that you can do that at your dad's and you get to enjoy that with your dad. But here we're gonna have, we have different rules here.
Yeah, and I
So
do want to make it clear that if the father of your children listens to this, I did not just call him an idiot. From what you've told me about him, I'm sure he's a great man.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just being funny over here, So like,
Yeah.
we don't name call anybody of the sort. So it's yeah,
No.
that's tough. Luckily I haven't had a lot of that for me. I'm very very blessed. My kids haven't done that. And how about checking in with your kids? Now, that's another thing that I've been doing. And I don't, you have to kind of toe the line on this because of, especially with what the
Yeah.
kids' ages are. Because if you keep prying, hey, how are you feeling? Are you feeling, is this wrong?
Mhm.
Is this right? Did you feel this way?
Yeah.
Like you can't interrogate kids. Like
I
that's the number one thing.
know.
Interrogations, whether it's what's going on over there or digging into their feelings, like is something bothering you? It's something, I will
Yeah.
ask, I will be like, hey, are you kids? How is this working for you? It's going
Mhm.
from house to house. At this point, it's literally, and again, I'm not going to keep prying because I don't see any bad behavioral changes. Their grades are fine. Their eating habits are great. They're smiling. They're happy. They're doing their
Mhm.
extracurriculars. So I don't see a reason why I should keep prodding them. I do ask, hey, how's everything going? Is this how it is? It's like indifference almost, which is, I think, the
Right.
healthiest because
Yeah.
if they
And you do
love it,
have to
yeah.
ask those questions, that way, because, you'll have, and I know we've talked about this before, our exes are going to be part of our lives forever.
Hmm.
The girls and my kids, they'll grow up and eventually they'll get married, and your ex will still be part of your life.
Hmm.
So why not have a good relationship? So asking, hey, is everything okay? Are you doing good? How do you feel about things? Everything good at your dad's house or whatever? I think that's important because if the kids were to say, no, I'm sad about this, that's where you can have that conversation with your ex and say, hey, this is what's going on. Like, is everything okay? You know?
Hmm.
So being able to ask questions like that, I think is okay. You're not prying into, who's your mom dating or who's coming over and, questions like that.
Oh yeah, you don't want
You
to get
don't
involved
really
in that. None of that.
know. Mm-mm.
Especially a question like that to try to pry if, hey, is are they dating somebody? Like you shouldn't care at that point. You got to
Yeah,
disconnect and detach at that point and
exactly.
just be done. But that kind of just leads back to the whole like start of everything that what you said in the beginning of what you were saying was that this person is going to be in your life forever now because they are the father or mother of your kids. And
Mhm.
you have to come to that acceptance. That's I think the first thing. You just have to accept it. And I think that's the first step is acceptance to that exact fact that you can't change that. And that's where you have to go ahead and say, all right, well, I accept that. Now I have to clear out this feeling and there's resentment and this grossness that's not it's hurting me more than anybody and not pass
Yeah.
it along to my kids and just put it away and put the ego away. Like I will say that probably 15 more times on this thing.
Yeah.
Put the ego away. That's hard for a lot of people to do, including myself. And but it's so necessary. It's the number one thing. And
Oh
that's
yeah. I mean, even for me, and this whole process has taught me so much more. And being able to respect your ex, even when sometimes you don't want to,
mhm.
it teaches you growth, because of course there's going to be moments where you're going to want to argue with the person because you don't agree with certain things. And you have to sort of detach yourself from that because you have to let them parent the way that they are parenting their kids because you don't want them telling you how you're parenting your kids at the same time, because unless you're doing something to harm your kids, then of course that's a whole different story. But if
Right.
everything's okay, I don't see why argue about anything, you
Right.
know?
Right.
There's no
What's
need to be like, why are you taking the kids, to this show or to that show? The kids have fun. Like, let them
Mhm.
have fun, let them explore different things. It might not be what you want, your kids to do with you, but if the dad or the mom wants to take them somewhere, you
Mhm.
should just embrace it and let them have new experiences, you
Absolutely.
know?
No, you're accurate.
So,
And I think another thing too to carry over once you've gotten to this point, as best you can, I think because issues are going to come up and you're going to get in arguments and maybe I've done
mhm.
it. I've been in positions where I
Yeah,
probably took things a little too far, not in front of the kids, but just via text or a
yes,
phone call or something because I didn't agree with something that was happening or maybe somebody who ended up being late for a pickup or something like that or whatever. Those things are going to happen and you have to react right. And if you don't react right, that's going to happen. And
yeah,
I will call myself out on that. In the past I have.
yeah,
And but what we've done is resolve things quickly.
yeah.
That's actually a strength of my ex. Sorry, I'm gonna let you talk. I promise.
Yeah,
But
you're
no,
good. But also apologize about it too if you are
yes,
in the wrong,
yes,
like
yes.
take that ego out. So,
Absolutely, you're
yeah.
100% right, and I do apologize. I do ramble and talk a lot, and I just it's just who I am. I'm sorry, Yolie. More
Yeah.
people would want to hear from you than me, anyways. So,
No,
but yeah,
you
no, it's
don't.
true, and that's the saying. That's what I did, and that's that's one thing with my ex and I. Even throughout our marriage and things like that, we were able to diffuse things quickly. But and now we
Mhm.
really can. It's better now. It's because once you settle down and then you just go back to thinking about, hey, okay, this wasn't that big of a deal. This is for the kids. Do you decenter yourself out of it? Okay, is this worth blowing up this peacefulness that we've carried in for this last year and some odd months? That am I going to destroy it over this? And because no, so I'm not. So it's just getting past it. It's going to happen, right?
Yeah. And
Anyway.
and because it's going to happen again, because I know on my end, I know I've sometimes changes in the kid's schedule that bothers me because I mean the beauty on my end, and I'm not trying to make it seem like we have like the best separation, but we both love our kids very much, so we both want our kids all the time. So our arguments are based on that. Well, I want them this weekend. Well, it's my weekend, so we do have arguments when it comes to that. And I have to learn to just be like grateful that I have someone who wants to be involved in the kid's life. Because there's a lot of people, or a lot of, whether it's the father or the mother, who they don't want to be involved. So sometimes I have to take that step back and just say, okay, it's okay. And sometimes I do have to apologize because I do get very upset and not happy when I don't have my
Yeah,
kids.
no,
So,
it's
yeah.
it's the better problem to have because I have been in talks with different people who have had a child or a divorce or whatever it is, and their parent is not present or doesn't want to be or doesn't want them the exact amount of time or isn't fighting for their time with their kids, isn't putting in the work to be there for them. I don't know if that's some sort of like effect of I don't understand it because I'm not like that at all. Like I love to see my kids. I see them on my off times. I'll pick them up from dance or school or something if I'm around. I will do that, and I'm happy to because I get to see them, and it alleviates this. Because what we do is a week on, week off, so it's week by week, and a week away from your kids, if you truly love your children, is a painful thing. It's awful,
Yeah.
and so to get those little hits of seeing them in between has really been helpful for me to just not have that just deep grief of missing them. So that's good. Yeah, like I said, and I'll say it straight up. Anyone that doesn't want to be there for their kids is a shitty individual. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I really don't have a nice thing to
Agree.
say about somebody that would abandon a child. You did it. I don't care if it was intentional. I don't care if the child was accidental. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what drugs you're on. I don't care what low self worth or victim mentality you want to implement. To not be there for your child is low level and irresponsible, and you are a less of a human being for that. And I have no problem saying that. So
I agree.
sorry to get harsh on that, but I know
Yeah.
you'll back me. I think.
I agree 100%. And, thankfully we don't have that problem and with like our significant others or our
Mhm.
exes. I keep saying that word, but with our exes,
It's all right.
that they want to be involved, and it's nice,
It is.
to have this understanding. Another thing too, you said that you pick them up on even the days that you don't have them for that week. That's the other thing too, where our agreement has also been like, hey, if for some reason you want to see the kids or need to see the kids, let me know, and I will be okay with having you see them for, however many hours you want them, even though it is my day or my
Right.
week or my weekend.
Right.
So, and we've had days like that where even sometimes I'm like, hey, I need to see my kids. Can we FaceTime? And right away, like, he'll call with FaceTime and it's my daughter. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden this sense of just happiness happens again,
Hmm.
you know. So
Right.
then again, that's where that communication is so important to have between you and your ex, because you are going to have days where you're going to struggle. You're going to miss your kids a little extra. And being able to say, hey, can I talk to the kids, especially when they're little, because they don't have their own phone. They're not teenagers where you can just be like, hey, how's it going?
Hmm.
When they're little, you have to go through the parents. So being able to have that communication and saying, hey, can I talk to the kids? And right away get that phone call and hear your kids saying, hi, mom.
Hmm.
It's wonderful.
It is.
It's amazing.
It really is. And I
So
think there's, we've always can bash technology in a sense.
yeah.
But I will always say that social media, technology, texting, emailing, messaging, all of that, it's a double-edged sword for sure because it just severs as many relationships as it does bring people together. But we
Right.
recently got my older daughter a cell phone. And so
Mm.
now it's just text and, hey, how's it going? I can, that's a blessing. They didn't have that back in the 80s, 90s, and things like that. When divorce was that, you were not with your kids. You had to call the landline. And again, you'd probably have to talk to the ex at that point. And if you didn't have a good relationship, you would dread calling, or maybe they wouldn't let you because
Right.
they're being an
Mhm.
egomaniac themselves. And they're like, nope, you can't talk to the kids. You'll see them in 5 days. Bye.
Mhm.
How
And
evil
you'll
is
be able
that?
to hang up.
Hang up the phone and
Do you remember that?
now you're sitting
Oh my gosh.
now you're sitting home, man. I mean, geez, now you're
Uh,
just sitting home and wondering what's going on. And so I am blessed, and I really am that my daughters, yes, yes, there's differences of opinion on usage of these devices. They have iPads, they have a phone like the one does, and they have one of them. She graduated from her watch to her phone, and the younger one got the watch. Which is nice
oh,
because there's really no internet on the watch. It does not. There's just it's text, it's voice, and it's you can check the weather and your steps, and that's really all it
oh,
does. Yeah, so
nice.
that's not a
Okay.
bad. So if you're thinking about it, and my daughter is
Yeah.
was about 8 years old. She's eight now. She got her when she was, yeah, eight. So I think your
Okay.
oldest is getting close to that. You can add.
Yeah.
I think with T-Mobile, you add it on for like it's like an extra 10-15 bucks a month or something like that. And
Okay.
they have it's nice too, and they have location, so it's like a little tracker as well. So it does a lot, and I actually support
Mhm.
doing that because you know where your kid's at, and you can talk to them. So like for
Yep.
instance, for me, it's a big deal about with like bathrooms in public places now because they're getting older. I can't take them into the men's room anymore. I don't feel comfortable, or they don't. And if they have to run into
Mhm.
the bathroom now, I have a little more peace of mind because they have a communication and tracking piece. So
Yeah. Oh man, how is that?
what the
Just let
bathroom
I don't
situation?
know. Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Oh
nerve
boy,
wracking. I
being a
mean,
dad. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I took them out to Buffalo Wild Wings once, and I'm just staring at the women's door like this. Are they all right in
You're
there?
like, I'm not being creepy, I
I swear I'm
promise.
not a creep. I'm waiting for my kids. I took my older kid to Six Flags Great America out here,
Yeah.
and that was before the watch, and I just basically had to stand there, and I had the entrance and the exit, and just made sure that I saw her come out of one of them when she had to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom. So
Yeah.
that's the hard part with the different genders,
Ugh.
you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. When they're little, it's really easy because they're still with you all the time, even just restrooms, you bring them in and you're like, you stay right here. I can see you through this little,
mhm,
peeping thing.
right.
And you just, do your thing. But as they get older, they start doing things independently and they want to do things independently and it just changes.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
you have to let them grow a little bit. It's tough watching them grow up and do these things on their own. And it's crazy because you know what? It's at the ages that I'm at. My kids are 11 and 8, and yours are 7 and 5, right?
7 and 5,
So
yeah.
the difference there a little bit is kind of, and the thing that can kind of hurt a little bit in divorce based on the ages is you lose the kids for part of, your life. And what ends up
Mhm.
happening simultaneously, especially with an older child, saying 10, 11, 12, something like that, getting into the teen years, you start to see them become more independent and not wanting to do as much stuff together. And you're like, oh, well, hey, I mean, I don't see you half the time. And now you want to go sleep over at your friend's house, but you can't restrict it because
Right.
but it's okay. So like, let's just say I was true week on, week off, and I didn't see him in between, and my daughter wants to go to his friends to sleep over. I have to put away my ego again and my control that I want, and that I
Yeah.
naturally would want to see my child, but I'm depriving my kid of her time with her friends, so I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
So
gotta be hard.
yeah,
That's gotta be very hard. Yeah.
it's okay. Again, I do text while she's there, just out of just to make sure she's okay and all that, and just
Mhm.
to all right, busy myself. You could just go find another thing that we have to do in these kinds of situations is to stop ruminating and thinking about what's going on, right? Because that'll
Mhm.
that'll destroy you.
Mhm.
That's torture. That's fucking torture.
Oh yeah.
That's a grieving, torturous thing to do, to sit there in the silence, alone in your home, wondering what your kids are doing. And shit, I bet you that's a lot more alleviating inside, knowing that you have a good relationship with their
Right.
father, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, even last night, perfect example. My daughter, I guess she wasn't feeling good. She had like a stomach ache. He called me, let me know, and asked, what do I do? We talked for a little bit, but of course, in the rest of the night, being a mom, you're just like, okay, did he give her this? Did he try this or did he try that? Is she okay? And you don't want to pry too much because you also don't want to make them feel like they're inadequate,
mhm.
while they're doing and taking care of like, your daughter and stuff. So I sent one last text message just asking, very simple, like, is she doing better? And he wrote, yeah, she's doing better. And that was it. And I'm like, okay, you know,
Mhm.
she's better. That's all I need to know. And that's it. I wanted to know more, like, well, what did she eat that made her feel better? But you can't. You just have to separate yourself and just accept the answer of yes, she is better,
Right.
because they are in his care and he's doing a great job. And when they are in my care, I know I'm doing a great job. And we both have to respect that.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely.
it's
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 really all
hard.
right. It is about, it's like a lot of other things in life that you have to, and this is still hard for me to do, just focus on what you can control and not what you can't control, because you can't control what's going on over there. I think that's one of the most uneasy parts of this, is that you can't control that. You also can't control, but you have to remember that that's a different situation, which was when they go to school, they go to a friend's house, or if they go to a party or whatever else they're at, a camp or a class, whatever they're doing. You also can't control what happens over there. And I think that's kind of a way of life to just sort of live in general. And I think would ultimately just kind of, uh, kind of glob in with this situation to where you're just not feeling like you need to control everything. And again, that will be alleviated if you have that right communication with your ex. I think
Right.
it's that simple in a sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. I
It's
mean,
not for everyone,
no,
but
and
again, I think that's
yeah,
something, if it's not like that, I think that, and we're not experts here, but I
no,
think that you have to find a way to just be able to communicate with that person without letting things get heated, you know? And I know it's hard because sometimes it's not easy,
no,
sometimes you really just, you might hate that person for what
right?
they did or what they didn't do, but you really, like you said, you have to take that out to remove that ego and just have that communication, because now you guys are doing it for the kids only. It's not because you guys are in a relationship, not because you're trying to make it work. It's for the kids. So having animosity and having hatred towards the opposite person, okay, have that, but be able to communicate, because you also do want to know what your kids are doing and you want to make sure that your kids are safe,
Hmm.
and that you trust when they are with the other parent.
Absolutely. And I think the healthiest place to be with an ex is indifference, is in, especially in an emotional sense, not indifference of what they're doing. I mean, obviously we all are
Right.
going to care about what they're doing with the kids, but I think
Hmm.
in a sense of feeling is true indifference, and not a nasty indifference. You know what I mean? Like just
Right.
okay, that is what it is. Let's just talk about the kid. I don't care because they say, right, the closest thing to love is hate, right? And indifference is the furthest. So you're just pulling that emotional shit back, and then you just put that into the kids, and that's kind of where you got to get to. And it's not easy to do, especially if somebody was, physically abused, verbally abused, cheated on, um, stolen from, whatever, or just living in a chaotic situation of somebody who's just not healed and not understanding their own selves. It's just
Right.
they don't. Some people don't see it. That's the problem. Is that some people will not. They will not see it mentally, or they're leading with all emotion and no logic, and they just feel, 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 and that's all we're doing here. The root of narcissism, that is. And luckily, if you found yourself with a narcissistic person, it's going to be hard, right? It's we're lucky we don't have a we're not narcissists. I don't think I am. I guess I I don't think I am. Maybe somebody thinks I am. Somebody might think I'm a narcissist. I mean, we throw that word around a lot these days. Where I
Yeah.
just think if somebody just I think that's what we do now. Words that are used too much is narcissist, toxic. These words are just so like used so much, but there's actually a clinical diagnosis of narcissism.
Yeah.
But that's a tough person to co-parent with. So,
Yeah.
but like there's probably somebody watching this right now that it's just wants to kill us because well, it's just because like they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know my ex. He's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
again, what we are sharing is, my experience and his experience. Everyone has their own experience. And, if you guys want to share how your relationship is going, leave a comment because it might help somebody else. You might have a better way of dealing with things and
mhm,
drop that advice in the
absolutely.
comments, because it one thing that we are is a community. And there is no manual on, how to deal with divorce or how to co-parent and how to, be friendly with your ex spouse. So if you found a way that has worked for you, leave it in the comments because it
Yep.
might help someone in the long run, or it might even help us,
Yeah, we don't
because
know it
we don't
all.
know. We're just learning
Nope.
and we're trying to figure things out ourselves. So, you know, um, but of course, we're probably going to get a lot of negative comments too, where
Maybe.
they don't know what they're saying.
Who knows?
Uh, but if not, just leave those comments down because it could help somebody.
Yeah, you never
It
know.
might help somebody parent or work better with an ex if you have, your own way of handling things that is working for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's don't be afraid to be silenced. No one's gonna someone's gonna disagree with you no matter what you say, whether no matter what. We don't try to be liked by everybody. Again, that's another thing too with kids. Don't just try to be liked by your kids, and don't put discipline in. Don't shun discipline just to be liked. That's another problem that I didn't even think about until just you said that. Because
Mhm.
once parents get split, you could just like it was mentioned before, just trying to compete for their affection and they want that.
Mhm.
What you do is sometimes you have to take discipline and throw it away. I not in any competition whatsoever with my ex, and I will say that I am probably more of a disciplinary figure than she is. Not knocking her, that's just who I am. But she has her own ways
Mhm.
of discipline, and I have mine. And just coming from me, male, and my stature, it's probably just I just come off more disciplinary as it is. So, but I'm not going to not discipline my kids in a peaceful, constructive sense just because I want them to like me and like being at
Mhm.
my house more. I don't care. I mean, I
Right.
want them to obviously, but not at the risk of them becoming ultra spoiled people and entitled uh,
Yeah.
going forward,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people do, and you you want them to like you or forgive you for, what's going on or what happened and during a divorce, and you want to buy them things, or you want to be like, oh yeah, when you come here you can do whatever you want, or little things like that. But you still have to remember that you're still the parent and you still want to guide your kids to be better, and
mhm.
do better.
Right,
So there's
right.
nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. All right. And I think the number one message to take away from this, from two people who have experienced it, we're not licensed professionals, is just please. I think the number one thing is to bury that ego as hard as it feels. Bury it. Put it away. Take the energy and throw it somewhere else because that's you taking it out taking it on for your kid's future pain. So you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to be the martyr. You're going to have to be the, Christ-like figure, right? And just take it. So that's to me the cornerstone of it all. You have anything else, Yolie, you want to put out there? I know you just said a whole bunch of great stuff. And before we close it up and give our contact info, anything
Yeah.
else you want to get out there that you've been wanting to say?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I have a lot to say, but everything's, all over the place because all of this
Sure.
is just, again, we're not experts, and Mike and I are trying to figure out how to co-parent still, with our significant with our exes. There I go with that word
I
again.
know what you mean.
So with with our exes, but and it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's very hard at times, but the goal is to make it easy. The goal is to make it as peaceful as possible. So when you say your goodbyes to your kids, you're not leaving with, hatred or pain in your heart or feeling like, this, I don't know, type of way towards your ex. You want to make sure that you leave the kids and that you feel like, okay, they're safe and everything's going to be okay. And if I have any questions, I can easily just message my ex and I'll get the answer,
Right. And you're going to want
you know?
that. Yep. And people are going to want that
Yeah.
because, we talked and I remember that first drop off ever
Oh my
sucks.
gosh. Yes.
It sucks. It's going to suck. If you care about your children, it's going to suck very badly. And
Yeah.
so to have the animosity on top of that, pain, grief, and guilt, you
Yeah.
don't want that. You can at least eliminate the animosity, the pain,
Yeah.
and the grief, and even the guilt is going to be there at that first drop off, and then
Yeah.
it does alleviate as it goes. It becomes more normal, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I gotta share this.
sure.
The first couple of drop-offs, and I remember talking to you a couple times, I would call Mike and I would be in tears. I would just be in tears, crying because it's hard, especially when you're so used to being with your kids every day, and then all of a sudden you have to drop them off and leave and go home to emptiness. It is just, oof, it crushes you. So I, from time to time, would call Mike and just be like, I just dropped off my kids, and I'd be driving home and just bawling my eyes out.
Hmm.
And, so thank you for
Oh,
being there during
a-
like
anytime,
such a tough time.
of course.
And I do recommend that if you are going through that, find a friend or just someone who has been through it who you can call, because when I tried doing it by myself, oh my goodness, I would come home and I'd just be completely depressed
Yes,
the entire night. And I'd wake up just, almost hating life,
we
knowing that I wasn't going to see the kids that weekend. So make sure that you have a support group or someone that you can feel, comfortable enough to share how you feel, and comfortable enough to get their feedback as well. So
absolutely. And speaking of which, Yoli and I do have a support group that we do. It's every other Thursday, and we will do more or a one-time thing. I will especially. I don't want to speak for you, but if you're in there too. We have a few people. We've done maybe 3 or 4 sessions at this point, and a lot of the folks in that group. It's about 9 of us, and they have everyone in that group has been through or going through a divorce and with kids and all that. We just kind of you're there for people who might get lonely or whatever it is. If you need to do something
yeah,
like that, you could see our hashtags are on the video here. But if you're not, it's at Body by Yolie on Instagram and at MFS Wellness for me. That's Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn if you need to. But so if you ever wanted to get into a group like that or need to talk to us about anything like this or set up a Zoom meeting, we'll do that. We'll help out because people need support and it's a strength.
yeah,
It's a strength to ask for help. It's not a weakness. You don't have to try to do it all by yourself, and it's all right even if you just need to vent to somebody. Again,
yeah,
obviously, like we've said multiple times, probably a therapist first, then but add it in. Yeah, go
yeah,
see your therapist. Then you just have an unbiased group of people who have experienced it and can share that with you and just be there. So we
yeah.
do that, and that's
And I'm going to share this, and I'm not trying to, say this just because I love the support group that you have created. But when I was going through the initial uh, separation in the beginning and I joined, I remember crying. I was a mess. and getting the feedback from everyone else who had either gone through it or is currently going through it, it really does help you. And you know, when you go through a divorce, you feel like it's just you going through a divorce and like, no, like you're the first person dealing with this. And you forget that many others have gone through this. So being in this group has helped me so much. And I look forward to every other Thursday because, you know, sometimes we don't talk about, you know, the divorce because sometimes we're all doing great, which is a positive thing. But sometimes some of us feel a little bit more and we want to share that and it does help. And we are
Hmm.
all there for each other, giving each other feedback and moral support and it feels great.
Right. And I,
It's honestly the best group.
well, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad we're doing it. And I think another
Yeah.
helpful aspect of it too is that sometimes when you're in this, it can get lonely. Because you're when you have younger kids, your time out is limited. You can't get out and socialize as much. So to have a place to, and it's social media is, sort of fake, right? It's not sincere usually. I mean, you can find a little bit, but it's a lot of people when it's a public forum, you don't know who's for real and who's virtue signaling or just it's public, so who's saying what? Yeah, you have people you'll message, which is great, but like to get in face to face with people, even if it's just through a Zoom, uh,
Yeah.
it does something for you. Even if it's like you said, even if everything's okay, you might just be that distraction for somebody that they need in that time. Someone might you might look for it. I call it an open soul oasis because oasis is like this spot where hey, you can come in here and you can just forget shit and like distract yourself in here. So
Yeah.
like the next session where I think I'm gonna do like a would you rather or something like that because
Yeah.
because like little things like that. It doesn't have to be heavy, but like just hey, let's get together and just shoot the shit on a Thursday night for a little bit and come in for a little bit or not. So another thing if you're
Yeah.
interested in. So
Yeah. And the reason why Mike has also created this was when you go through a divorce and let's say you drop off your kids and it's just you alone now, you get lonely because you also lose a part of this routine that you once had when you were married. You know, let's say for people you have dinner 6 or 7 and and now you're at home by yourself at 6 or 7, not knowing what to do. And you make dinner for yourself, you know, clean up or whatever, and then you're alone. So having this group, you can do that. And then now you have a group of people that you can talk to instead of feeling alone or scrolling through Instagram and seeing, oh, this person looks happy. And, you know, because
hmm
of course on Instagram, people are going to post their best self. You're going to see someone's highlight.
hmm
And and sometimes it's really not like that. So being able to, you know, feel a certain way and then connect with people, it does help because it takes that loneliness out when, you know, especially if you're newly divorced and you're just going through it and you're like, well, what do I do now? Now I'm alone and you want to sit there and cry. Well, now you have a group of people that you can go talk to and create friendships with and not feel alone anymore,
Yeah, yeah,
you
you
know? So
empathize with each other a little
yeah,
bit. To just someone might need to be heard more than another, and it's just a good
yeah.
community to start to get that off. Call it offline if you'd like, off social media. It's more of a hey, nobody's being recorded, no one's being seen here. We can just
Mhm.
go and look forward to
Yeah,
something. So all right, so
exactly.
yeah, I think we did a good thing here for our first episode. So this was
Yeah,
basically parenting post divorce. Yes, we are doing this because we have implemented a peaceful co-parenting situation and we want to put that out there to inspire other people to go for that and put your shit away and don't get upset. So like Yolie had said, we've got our handles here. You can contact us whether you want to join a group or if you want to just chat. That's fine. Comment, whatever works, because we're going to be up on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. So we'll have another one coming up for you down the road. We're going to determine what that's going to be, but I think we might have to talk about how we feed our kids. Maybe we'll see what that is, or a few other
or if you
topics.
guys have any topics that you guys want us to talk about when it
Yeah,
comes to post divorce,
yeah,
just,
yeah.
you know,
We'll
leave
do
them in
it.
the comments.
We'll do
Yeah,
it. We'll do it, or
we will.
we'll incorporate a bunch of them in. Maybe we could do a Q and
Yeah.
A. I don't know if anybody cares to hear from
Hmm.
us. We're happy to do it. So whatever works.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll get that one on the schedule here in a couple of weeks. And until that time, Yolie, you take care and enjoy the beautiful weather as you just kind of stay in
Nice.
summer while I head into the tundra of winter as that
Yeah.
approaches. But fall's first, so we got to get spooky season down, right?
Oh,
So
yeah. Well, it's always spooky season here for me at
I
least.
can see they got the Frankenstein monster back there. I appreciate that. So, all
Always.
right. Well, for Yolie, I'm Mike, and until the next episode, we will talk.